Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, rai, 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 rai. Yai, 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 lai, 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 lai. Chag Sameach, everyone. Welcome to Hineni. Here I am, 6 feet apart, close at heart. We're going to begin by lighting candles together. So I invite you to get your Chanukiot, your menorahs. And as you're getting your candles ready, recognize that all over the world, Jews come together with friends and family, sometimes in person, sometimes on Zoom, but they do it to bring joy and light into their homes. And each night, as we light a consecutive candle, we're lighting up the world just a little bit more, which increases our ability, our hope to fight a little bit more against despair and during these dark times. Our tradition teaches us that every single person has the capacity to bring goodness and compassion through thoughts, through actions, through our relationships, and that is what helps restore balance to the world, even in the most dark times. So hopefully you have your Chanukiah. And will light with me. I know it looks backwards to you, but to me, we're going the right way. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim hahem, b'zman hazeh. The shamash is the special candle on the menorah that lights the other candle. And as you can see on almost pretty much every menorah, it's a little bit elevated. So imagine for a moment that this is responsible for lighting the rest of the candles, for lighting the world. In just a moment, we are going to get a glimpse of 3 special shamashes in our community. And they have elevated the lives of people in need. So many people have been affected in a positive way by these 3 people. They're very different stories, but they all have the same goal: to light up the world just a little bit more.
Can you tell me your name and your job and what happened, I guess, on the day that you decided to close the schools down?
Okay, so I'm Yvette Gorovich. I'm the Chief of Specialized Learning and Student Support Services in Norwalk, Connecticut. I am also a mother and a grandmother and a wife and an aunt. And I'm also the chair of the ritual committee. So when we talk about COVID impact, I always look at it through those three lenses of who I am. So first, the work lens, of course, you asked. On March 13th, Connecticut closed schools, Norwalk closed schools. And I went home and put the car in the garage. And there it stayed because we were pretty much quarantined, self-quarantined, until July 6th. I had not gone out of the house until July 6th, when Norwalk had reopened schools for summer school. I supervised programs for kids with disabilities, and they were certainly our first group of kids to be brought back in. And when I got into the car, my winter coat was still there because I had not been in the car in all those months, and it was sort of like a time warp reality for me. We also were really concerned about some of our kids that weren't accessing and weren't logging on. And we set out and we did some home visits, and there were a group of two brothers that we were really worried about in middle school. We could, they weren't responding. We were calling and emailing. Parent wasn't responding, and we sent a social worker out for a well visit. And we found the four siblings at home, single father raising these kids. Father was really, really sick in the hospital with COVID, and the seventh grader and the eighth grader were caring for the younger sibs.
Oh no.
I mean, like no food, no family, it was like crazy. We found those kids, and, the community really surrounded them. And when we finally reached Dad, when he finally, was well enough to take a phone call in the hospital, he said, the only thing I kept thinking of is, like, who's going to take care of my kids,
Right.
So we found those kids, and that's part of this story, that we sort of add to when, we're blessed enough to be enabled enough to be able to take care of our own kids. We got to remember that there are lots of kids out there that don't have that access that our own children have access to. So that's my school perspective. My grandma and my mom perspective is, I have a 6-year-old, then COVID one 5.5-year-old, and a 2-year-old grandchildren, and my daughter was working full-time from home, and my son-in-law was working full-time from home. And at that point in time, their school district was doing asynchronous learning. It wasn't really a live learning, and nobody was coming into the house. As I said, we really took self-quarantine very seriously. Particularly my daughter lived in that hot zone of New Rochelle, so we were really very serious about this. So they moved in with us for, let's see, March through probably early June. So that was really a blessing in disguise, in that I, had the opportunity to wake up every day to these sweet little faces waking me up. They sort of know that I was a teacher. So every day took an hour to teach my 5.5-year-old how to read. My 5.5-year-old grandchild how to read. And
Wow.
I was there at that moment, that miracle moment when a kid says, oh, it's not just memory. Like there's a method to this. And I think I got that method. So I was there that moment she broke the code and that light bulb went off, and I said, oh my gosh, if it wasn't for COVID, like I would have missed, like who, you're not there, only if you're the teacher do you get to see the blessing of that moment.
Is this the hardest thing you've ever been through professionally?
Um, among them. It's probably the most challenging on a large scale.
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've sat in shiva homes for kids that we've lost. I first part of my career was in the South Bronx, and I went to wakes of kids that were caught in crossfire. So those losses don't compare to the lift, but from a systems view, yeah, this is really challenging,
Yeah.
really challenging.
Do you feel like the kids are going to recover from this, or how are they going to recover from this?
So I believe the kids are really resilient. I don't think you can dedicate your life to education or mental health and not believe in the resiliency of kids or of people. I really worry about them. I think that there are some that will be impacted more than others. Each week, it's a new challenge. And then I look back and I say, oh my goodness, do you remember what everybody was like so upset about in April? Like, we're not even thinking about that anymore,
Right, right.
So like each month, it's, okay, give me something we can't figure out. Okay.
So Sam Kupferberg, like an early 30s guy who grew up more or less connected to Larchmont Temple with your mom and dad and your sister. What do you do and why?
Well, I'm an emergency medical technician. I work on an ambulance in Midtown Manhattan for Mount Sinai, and we are contracted with the fire department in New York to provide 911 services to that area.
So somebody calls with, clearly you don't call 911 unless you're some, irresponsible person like that person who called because their pizza delivery order was wrong in the Midwest. You
Right.
call because there's something really serious going on.
Right.
So you respond.
Sure.
I mean, of all the things to do, why this thing? Why this field?
Well, my entire life I've kind of been like what they would call an ambulance chaser. It's always excited me. I've read many articles about accidents, and school wasn't quite working out for me right after college. And I was kind of trying to look for an alternate career path, and I stumbled upon an EMT course at a community college in the city. And I took it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I'll never turn back.
And I'm guessing that the past, I describe it, we went on an Israel trip with the congregation in sort of mid to late February. We got back February 24th. And literally, like the next week, I remember being in the city at a meal with my rabbinic students, and one of them saying, well, I don't think we're going to see much of each other. And I said, nah, you're crazy. I was clearly wrong. So when, I'm assuming that around then and maybe a little after, things got a little more intense for you. How has it been these past, what is it, like 8-9 months almost?
Something like that, yeah. In the beginning, it was incredibly hard. We started to see patients probably like you said, late February, but there wasn't such an influx yet. We didn't really know much about it. We didn't know how it was transmitted. So we kind of just brushed it off and said, whatever. And then March came around and we really started to see people getting sick. On a normal day, the New York City Fire Department runs about 3,500 to 4,000 calls. In the middle of March, we started running about 7,000 calls a day. And then on top of that increased workload, our coworkers started to get sick. So we were dropping, people were dropping, and it just became this overwhelming issue. And unfortunately, probably midway late March, I actually contracted the virus. So, and it was right around the time that we were finally getting some relief. FEMA had sent in, I believe, 150 ambulances from around the country to supplement our already existing ambulances and to help us with our workload. And that was a godsend. It took a huge weight off our shoulders. We finally had a support system. The only other thing that we were struggling with was, the worldwide PPE shortage. It used to be you wore an N95 for 20 minutes and then you threw it out, and that was it. Now you're getting one a week or one per shift, and it was ridiculous.
So it's putting you at risk, quite literally.
Right. And unfortunately, there's nothing anybody could do about it because there just wasn't the supplies. Like they tried back ordering, and we just weren't getting anything. So people started making cloth masks for us. We started covering the N95s with surgical masks to prevent, it getting soaked and stuff like that. And in the rain, they would just get soaked and you could barely breathe through them. That was another big issue.
But so, I mean, I remember when Mom said, hey, can you put Sam on the Misha Barach list for healing? And I asked why. And she, it was even hard for her to say it.
Right.
So clearly, rightfully so, your parents were worried. So you go through this. What was it, a difficult, road for you? I mean, how did it play out?
It was. So I essentially had it for about a month. And, at first it started with very mild symptoms, a little bit of a stomach ache, and I lost my sense of smell and taste, which was very weird. And then I started to get the more serious symptoms, difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, weakness, that kind of stuff. And I actually spiked a fever, and I never really do that. So that was very concerning. So there was probably about a week and a half where I was, really struggling. I didn't end up in a hospital because I knew if I went there, people weren't coming home. That's the thing. You went to a hospital, you weren't coming out of it. So that terrified me. So, I struggled with it at home, and thank God I got over it, and I was able to return to work in the beginning of May.
So, I mean, you say it almost like it's matter of fact. Like, yeah, so, I plant nuclear bombs and I figured I'll go back to it. What the heck? So, I mean, in all sincerity, did you have doubts?
Yes, but, I think we all did. But our love for our job, just kept us going. There's so many rewarding aspects of it as well. I know during the pandemic, we saw an incredible amount of death. And sorrow and families losing people. And, pretty much every time we went to pick up a patient that was sick like that, that would be the last time they'd see their family. So that was incredibly hard for all of us to wrap our heads around. But on the other side, like we got to hold their hand and let them know, like, hey, you're not alone, as they passed. So that was very rewarding in of itself, but still very hard.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't want to tell you you're heroic, but you are. And part of the reason is because you are human and you value the humanity of the other person. Right. Even if you don't know who the heck, they may look very different from you, right? But you showed up,
right?
And just being there to hold that hand or, give the oxygen or whatever you're doing. Were there specific success stories or moments like saving moments that stand out to you, or?
There were some moments where, you would get to a job, and so like a normal person's O2 sat is about 98 to 100%.
Right.
And, we would show up and there would be, a 30-year-old with an O2 sat of, 34%, which is before Corona was unheard of. Like you could not survive that.
Did you say 34?
Yeah. Yep. It was insane. And, luckily we had, we had, not only was I there, we had a higher levels care ambulance there as well. And they were able to intubate him and get his O2 sat, back up into those high 80s, low 90s. I don't know what happened to him down the road. But, just knowing that I could help in just that little bit was rewarding in itself.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, this is a harder question, but I ask it anyway. Knowing the kind of family you come from, of really caring people. I think I may have served on the Human Rights Commission with Jeannie, with your mom, years ago. Your dad is basically a Talmud Torah scholar in disguise, but you know so much about compassion from a Jewish perspective and a human perspective. and after all this time of struggling, we're at, Thanksgiving basically. Um, are there a couple of takeaways? Is there something that you like, if you could step back from what you're doing as the EMT, that you basically have learned over the months?
So yeah, so basically, but prior to the whole COVID-19 and pandemic, EMS, we used to call it the redheaded stepchild of emergency services, because we're the newest. We've only been around for 100 years or so, and we're always overlooked. It always goes to the fire department or the police department. And then I think people started to realize, like, hey, these people exist too. And, the public was so appreciative of us. We started receiving meals, donations, and stuff every single day. Our crew would be packed with food from people just donating foods and supplies for us. And that really, really helped us get through everything. And another good takeaway from that is, like, the people that I was close with at work became family to me. We are now absolutely inseparable because we went through such a traumatic time together that no one else is really going to understand how we feel. So we turn to each other, and, that wasn't something we really did beforehand. But, the mental health in EMS is now, being talked about, and there's programs and stuff. So.
And in a way, I'm guessing this is true, Sam. People that, they shower you with food and whatever they can give you. You need some water, people just on, you go onto a call and you're on the job and they want to feed you. They want to take care of you. I mean, there's an immense amount of, in a way, unconditional human kindness that's been generated here.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, and I mean, the takeaway for me from looking at a balcony seat from what you do is, you think it's just, I'm going to work, or even that I'm going to try to help people out and try to be there in a medical way for them. I think it's sort of angelic, because without EMS, we'd have a lot more people go into their great beyond, and also they would leave the world thinking that nobody cares for them or that they're alone. And you've been there. Talk about a frontline worker, Sam. There is no more frontline, I think, than EMS.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want to say to you, you're humble. It doesn't surprise me because I know the great stock from which you arise, but your humility really touches everybody's heart. So certainly mine, and I bet everybody else as well. So I just want to say, on behalf of our little temple community, thank you for doing what you do and for doing it the way you do it and for being you. So Jerry Oriens, one of my post-confirmands, a confirmation kid last year. And I guess last year is where we should go, Jerry, because last year, when we were all responding and we all went from having 10th grade confirmation with me in the sanctuary, all of a sudden we couldn't do that anymore. And it was amazing. All the kids showed up online, you among them. But you had a unique response to the pandemic. What was it?
So as the pandemic started, as we were starting to do asynchronous school and everything, a couple friends and I started a group called Hack the Pandemic. And we all like tech. We all like 3D printers, messing around with robots and stuff. And so we said, wait, what if we took all of those 3D printers that everyone has that are at home or in schools that aren't being used right now for whatever reason because of the pandemic, and we put them to work making medical supplies. And so it started out with just a couple friends and myself, and then we somehow made it up to 300 makers, all helping us produce face shields like this. They get a little plastic piece, and then you wear them on your forehead. They prevent you from getting sprayed, and stuff like ear savers, where for hospital workers who are wearing masks all day, saves their ears from getting crushed by a mask for 8-10 hours a day. And we provide all of these free of charge to hospitals in New York City who need them.
So when you make it sound a little too easy, Jerry, let me just say something. We just decided. So you went from a few of your I don't want to call them, I don't want to label them in any kind of like way, like really cool, nerdy kids or geeky kids or kids who have this science tip. So these are 3D printer people. So you started with a few people and you got 300?
Yes, we started with those couple people who just like tech and want to work on the tech part. And then where I came in is I'm a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to hang out. And so through that, I set up a website and said, hey, anybody who has a 3D printer anywhere in the US, if you sign up, put in your name, email, and how much stuff you can make a week, and then just ship us a box, we can get it to hospitals.
Am I
And so
right that you also like were dealing with design and you were in touch with somebody at MIT or something, or?
yeah, so my couple techie friends were working on taking designs like these face shields and optimizing them from like what the NIH already had and provided that existed into something that we could make ridiculously fast and ridiculously cheap, so that we can get the most stuff into the hands of people who need them as fast as possible.
And also, like, we would be at confirmation and you would say, yeah, I was just dealing with a company in New Jersey who have a delivery for me or whatever. So you were getting materials and dealing with companies, right? And officially, I'm assuming this is a nonprofit.
Yeah, we operate under the Larchmont Temple Sanctuary Alliance as a nonprofit, and we get a whole bunch of really nice donations from people. But like I said, a lot of it is all the companies that are shut down for COVID have their equipment, their makerspaces, fab labs that they have at work that are just shut down right now because nobody's in the building. And so people started printing on those printers since no one is in the building and mailing that product to us, and then we can get it into the hands of people who can use it.
But you were the force behind it that actually enabled it all to happen, which is sort of amazing. I just want to remind you, at the time when you did this, you were a 10th grader, right? So
Yep.
for a lot of us who are looking at the pandemic and saying, like, whoa, what do we do? You didn't do that. You just did it, right? So
yeah, I needed.
Why this?
Because I couldn't really sit still and just kind of let everything happen. Like we were all stuck at home for the first couple of weeks. We're all reading the news, and we keep seeing like, oh, so and so hospital's at capacity. So and so hospital doesn't have enough protective equipment. You see doctors working in trash bags. And I was like, well, okay, we can try and get some donations going and buy some equipment and stuff. And I was like, oh wait, we have all these people who have stuff that they can use and make it for cheap or free and drop it off. And it was basically just because I couldn't sit around and do nothing.
Yeah, you gave me another reason, though. I remember when I asked you for my holiday sermon, and you said, well, it was better than doing school.
Yes, this is 100% true. Remote school sucks, and having something other than school helps.
Have you had any feedback from hospitals or doctors or even staffs that have said things to you or given you?
Oh, we get so many nice emails, letters, what have you, postcards saying thank you for whatever. Here's how many people we were able to treat with your supplies. And then we also get technical feedback of we'll get a doctor saying, this is great. I have a patient who can't wear a mask because they have whatever ADHD and can't have the mask over their face, makes them uncomfortable. Can you design something that will let me treat them and keep them comfortable at the same time? And so then we're able to work one-on-one with them and get them the stuff they need.
If I were going to ask you, what's the lesson learned, or are there big takeaways, like lessons learned from these past, I think we counted 8 or 9 months of responding to this?
Definitely. I'd say obviously a lot of it is that it's very easy to get non-technical people motivated about something technical, as we found out. We had probably half of our volunteers were like, I've never touched CAD. I don't know how to 3D print. How can I help? And we train them up on it. We mail them a 3D printer and they're happy to get going on it. And so I guess just the fact that it's very easy to motivate people into doing stuff techie like, and more so that 3D printing and digital fabrication tools that people now have at home. This was the first time that I feel like the world really realized this isn't just for making like tchotchkes. You can actually like produce stuff with these on a large scale with enough effort and coordination.
Not that there's anything wrong with tchotchkes, Jerry. We like a good
Tchotchkes are wonderful. You know me and my tchotchkes.
But let me ask you this: what have you learned about human nature, or about people just generally? Have you had takeaways about that, and that you can keep with you?
Yeah, I'd say, like I said, people just want to help. And if you give them an outlet to help in a way that makes them feel comfortable and that makes them feel like they're making a difference, that's the best anyone can ask for.
You are not a frontline worker, but you have enabled those frontline workers to work more safely and effectively. And so I would say hashtag hack the pandemic. How old were you when you started? Were you 15 or 16?
Was 16 when I started it.
All right. So being a 16-year-old kid and figuring out you can do this and it could work, and having it take off like this and impacting so many lives, I would even say maybe saving lives, you should feel pretty good about this.
I'm very happy about what we've been able to accomplish. Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? Always humble Jerry Orians. You are a model for all of us. So I want to say, on behalf of Larchmont Temple, we could not be more proud. I would put you in the super mensch category. So keep doing what you're doing. I know your parents are proud. I know your sister's even proud. But I cannot be more happy to call you a member family of our congregational community. So keep doing your work.
Thank you. I will shamelessly plug before we turn the recording off.
Yeah.
If you want to help out, it's hackthepandemic.org, or send us an email, hello@hackthepandemic.org. We can get you set up with stuff. If you want to donate, we can give you that information. Yeah.
Awesome.
Come drop us a
Thank
line.
you, Jerry. You're the best.
No worries.
Three powerful interviews, changing lives, bringing light into the world. We can't express enough gratitude to these three wonderful interviewees for being with us and sharing their stories. In a few moments, we are going to share a video montage, a glimpse into the lives of our Larchmont Temple families through pictures, through art, through words. Before we do that, I want to introduce to you the three women who came to me back in April with this idea of recognizing the work, the extended hearts and hands of our members of our community, Lisa Chase, Phyllis Lindy, Marnie Foster Marks, and the woman who actually put all of this together. Erin, can you just come on and show us just a little piece of you so we can say thank you for making this happen and putting this together so beautifully. Thanks. So Marnie and Phyllis and Lisa, can you just give our audience an idea of how this came to be?
Well, what I remember is we were having a kind of a dreary conversation, all of us, about how there wasn't going to be any events. There was going to be no singing for a while. That everything was shut down for at least a year. And we had all heard these stories of people who were doing in the media, who were doing amazing things. And we began to talk about people in our own congregation who were doing amazing things. And I used to be a journalist, and I know the power of having somebody tell their story. And I also got very proficient with Zoom during the pandemic. And so we began to talk, and I think it was Phyllis actually who suggested that we could interview these people on Zoom and put together a program.
Oh, good. I got unmuted. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, it was. I remember our first conversation with LT Arts for next year, and where everyone seemed to be trying to put up a good face over the phone, over Zoom, and I could tell. I was just like not feeling it, and I was like, "We're not feeling this," and where is there, the light within all of this? And that's what I think we found. And these 3 interviews, there are more people out there. There are so many in our congregation too, so many. They're just like a sampling of it. And also with Marnie, what she's done, which you're going to see quickly, everyone had their own way and has their own way of bringing light into this time. And we've also changed, haven't we? Since when we first started in April, when we wanted to get together to do it for the high holidays, and then even now, just that there's so few of us seeing this, don't you feel like more maybe should see it somehow? And hopefully you can, and you can tell people to come to the website anyway. And Marnie has also been on board the entire time too. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Yes, thank you to everybody who participated. This has really been incredible. This project really changed over time. We realized this is not a short-lived thing where, oh, thank you very much, you worked during the crisis and now it's over. No, it's not over. And we couldn't possibly thank everybody because everybody has changed. Everybody's been through a lot. Whether you're just reaching your own family or reaching a whole community. So we felt like what we really need is to see each other and to interact with each other on a deeper level. And that sort of became the idea for people to send in a representative of something that's important to them, the art that they've made, the thoughts that they've had in their head, the quotes, the words that they've lived by, and just the pictures of what they've done with their families and how they've changed and what's important. So this is the piece, and it just evolved, and we had no idea what it would look like, but it came together in a beautiful way with real themes of commonality. So thank you to everybody.
Enjoy the piece. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you stand, where you walk, where you love, where you praise, all of it is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who, it's in her, it's in me, it's in them, it's in you, in the bitter, in the sweet, in the calm, in the storm. All of life is holy ground, so walk as if it's holy ground, breathe as if it's all around, talk and make a holy sound, take your shoes off your unholy ground. When you cheap when you give it away. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day. Take your shoes off your unholy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off your unholy ground. One story, one journey, one tapestry we weave. One people, one glory, one legacy we leave. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you stand, where you walk, where you love, where you praise, all of it is holy ground. Can you feel the holy ground? Take your shoes off, you're on a holy ground.
I will open my eyes.
I will open my eyes.
I will not look away.
I will not look away.
I will use this gift I've been given every day. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. I will give of myself.
I will give of myself.
I will reach out my hand.
I will reach out my hand.
I will use this heart I've been given to take a stand. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam she'asanu b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam she'asanu b'tselem Elohim. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. I will fight for the truth.
I will fight for the truth.
I'll stand up for what's right.
I'll stand up for what's right.
I will use this strength I've been given to be the light. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. You know, what occurs to me, and I think all of us at a moment like this, is that there are heroes all around us. We have them hiding in plain sight. The leadership of people like Carolyn Camlett and Julie Carson, who co-chair our LT Care and Community, galvanizing the efforts of countless people, dozens, who pick up prescriptions or get the groceries or, you know, deliver some other needed things to folks who can't get out or who would be putting their safety at risk if they do. These are nameless people, but the help that people give brings light. As the cantor said, we have a whole bunch of shamishes around our congregation. And what do we learn from something like this, from this beautiful Hineni? Hineni is a code word. Hineni means I am here and ready to help. If we can all say that, because then we'll get the message. The message is the world is much smaller than we think. And every single person's well-being, no matter what language they speak or the clothes they wear or the customs they keep, matters to us, even if they're halfway around the world or all the way around the world. So the goal is to understand. Here's the takeaway story. I told it the last time I remember at our rally for tolerance when there was anti-Semitism in the community at a big meeting at the high school auditorium. There was a boy walking along the beach at low tide, throwing starfish back into the sea. And an old man's walking the other way and he says, "What are you doing? Do you think, look at all these starfish. It doesn't matter what you're doing here. Look at all of them." And the boy picks up a starfish in his hand, tosses it back in. He says, "It matters to this one." You just never know what's going to matter and how you can help save a life by extending your hands and your heart. That's what we get from Hineni. Just say, Hineni, I'm here to help. Way to go, cultural arts leaders, the cantor, the driving force behind everything good in our congregation. Hanukkah's light shines bright thanks to what we've seen tonight.
Thanks, Rabbi Serkwin. We're going to close the evening with the third verse of Light One Candle, because that's the verse that reminds us that it is by the retelling of the story every year that we spark the memory that is important for us to remember, that not only is it a responsibility, but a privilege for us to bring the light to the world, to others who are in need. So join me. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we've cried out they've not died in vain? We have come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, and this is the sole promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. One more time. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Thank you everyone for joining us. Again, Chag Sameach.